I'm now moving on to item 8 on the agenda, which is the Executive Director's Report on current and future activities, with an opportunity to discuss issues of concern to members. I'd like to invite Neil Redfern, our Executive Director, to present his report on the current and future activities of the CBA. Over to you, Neil.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Gail, and welcome aboard. It's great to have you as our chair. I'm delighted to be able to give you my report this year. Just a little bit of reflection looking back. Obviously, where I'd like to start is to thank our outgoing trustees, Ken Smith, Carenza Lewis, Keith Lilly and Alison Spall, for all their hard work they have and time they've donated towards the CBA. Particularly Ken and Carenza, who as my first chair and vice chair have been hugely supportive in me taking on the role. Keith Lilly has been wonderful about helping us have a presence in Northern Ireland, and Alison has really helped us shape and hone the CBA's approach, become more business-like, to actually help us understand some of the challenges that we actually face within our finances and just organising ourselves as a business. I'm delighted with our 4 new incoming trustees, Gail, Peter, Clemency, and Hannah. You're all officially now CBA trustees, so the work starts here, and I am really looking forward to what you will all bring to the CBA. Last year, we moved office in York, from one side of York to the other. We are now in De Grey House. I'm actually sitting in the downstairs room at the front 2 windows of De Grey House, presenting to you today. It's a location right in the heart of York, almost in what was referred to as the cultural quarter, and I'm delighted to say we're on the ground floor and we have a much stronger presence within the city, which is absolutely fantastic. Last year also saw the creation of our Youth Advisory Board. This is a new initiative for the CBA to help strengthen our youth voice. We now have 12 young people who are members of the Youth Advisory Board. And in November last year, we were delighted that the majority of them and the majority of trustees were able to join staff for what is our annual staff and trustees training day. We have 2 days every year where we all get together in person. This is a really important initiative for the CBA to actually understand how we better reflect society today and how we better communicate with hopefully the members of the CBA in the future, and actually how we think about the perception of archaeology and move it forwards. These initiatives are not standalone items. Over the last 2 years, in collaboration with Leslie McFadden at Birkbeck University, we've been running every month our letters to a young archaeologist. The letters are based around archaeologists writing to a fictional young person about archaeology and what it means to them and why they might want to think about a career or be interested in archaeology. So we have 24 months of some of the most amazing conversations around archaeology, challenging perceptions and actually how we deliver things. In December, our Youth Advisory Board actually responded to the previous 23 months of letters. And if you go onto our website and listen to what our youth advisors were saying, you'll get a really clear indication about how young people perceive archaeology and the areas we need to start developing in to move forward. And I'm really delighted with our young advisory board members. They are highly, highly committed young people, and we're really pleased that they are keen to help us shape our voice. Understanding our voice is really critical because we do stand up for archaeology. Advocacy is one of our primary roles, whether that's through our listed building casework as one of the 7 national amenity societies, or in standing up to issues such as the proposed cuts to Cadw and the Welsh Royal Commission. We have a voice in this area. We can be listened to and we can make a difference. So again, the active support of the membership is really important in these areas. But we can't look back at last year without also looking back at the previous 80 years of the CBA. This year is our 80th anniversary. We were founded effectively on the 8th of March 1944 at 11:30 a.m. in Burlington House at the Society of Antiquaries. Looking back at our founding story, I'm fascinated about who was actually involved, and I think we're going to hear a little bit more about that from Amara in our Beatrice Picardi lecture later, but also about what they were trying to achieve. What strikes me is their real aspirational tone of what they were wanting to achieve. They were looking at what were the opportunities going to be afforded to archaeology in post-war reconstruction. As we look forward now, I think the most important aspect the CBA needs to grasp is how does archaeology refine its aspiration? What does that actually mean for the way the CBA communicates archaeology, communicates the value of archaeology, and what anyone can do around participating in archaeology? And as we move through our 80th year, you're going to hear lots more about this and how we actually want to shape it. But resources are absolutely critical for this, not just for ourselves, but for our wider network of archaeological groups and societies. To help us understand this, the CBA before Christmas undertook a rapid survey of archaeological groups and societies. This was directly intended to inform our National Lottery Heritage Fund application. As Ken mentioned, that application is in. We should hear this month whether we've been successful in that. That application will help us shape the future work of the CBA, particularly around supporting, understanding, and growing our membership. So there'll be a lot of work coming back to the members, asking you, what is it you want from the CBA? How can we better service your needs, and how can we communicate with you better? But our membership is not just about individuals. It's also about archaeological groups and societies, our network. There are over 250 institutional members of the CBA. What services do we provide them? What can we do better to promote the work they actually do? What can we do better to understand the challenges they face? Taking the temperature showed us several things. First of all, the aging membership of local groups and societies. This is going to become a real challenge in future years, not least as almost universally all groups who responded to the survey said one of their biggest challenges wasn't just more members, but younger members. How do they engage with a younger membership, be that people who are still working or people who, in a sense, are much younger, a stronger youth voice? It's going to be something that we're going to have to develop and support them with to actually help them perceive a more resilient future. And in many ways, that membership conversation is the biggest challenge that is facing the CBA. What will membership look like in 10 years' time? I personally don't think it'll look anything like what it does now. The CBA will need to transform in this area to be able to actually attract new people to become members or to engage in our activities. So the lottery application is starting us on a process to really reimagine membership. What does it mean for you? What do you want from us? And that needs to be a long-term conversation. Most importantly, it will actually help us with some staff capacity to build around our membership and network conversation, and how we look and evaluate and understand the many varied audiences out there. So this then really highlights the three issues the CBA needs to actually look at and focus on over the next several years: membership, network, and audiences. The digital world now means that audiences are very subtle and they have very many different needs. The same people who use Instagram don't necessarily use Facebook. They don't use TikTok. They don't use the website. They all want a different story and a different way of actually telling that. That requires resources and it requires commitment. And the CBA needs to understand that. We need to understand our audiences and our membership network and what you want. We are going to have to reimagine British archaeology at some stage. Our new editor, Kat Jarman, is doing a fantastic job in actually bringing new material to the magazine. But what is the long-term sustainable future of the magazine? Are we going to be able to afford to continuously have it as a printed journal 6 times a year? Are there different options for actually doing that? How does it relate to the digital content that we actually now produce? And in many ways, reimagining British archaeology actually requires us to reimagine what we call digital transformation. What will the presence of the CBA look like across all of these channels? We know we get extraordinary engagement through things like the Festival of Archaeology, through our X or Twitter account. People really want to engage in that two-way conversation. How will we look to service that moving forwards? It can't be seen as a standalone. It has to be seen alongside British archaeology. It has to be seen alongside the other activities we do, such as the festival, our youth engagement, and our casework. They really are such critical and important conversations that we have to have moving forwards. And hopefully our lottery application, which we're calling Reconnecting Archaeology, will help us do that more effectively. Because ultimately what the CBA needs to do is it needs to find an income source that is more reliable, that actually enables us to do the things we want to do. We are very successful at drawing in grant aid. We get amazing support from a whole host of grant giving bodies, notably Historic England, Historic Environment Scotland, and CADU. They support us really brilliantly. We get great sponsorship and donations from other people, which is fantastic. We have been successful in applying to grant giving bodies such as the Headley Trust and the Marsh Community Trust, which we'll hear about later, to fund some of the activities we want to do. But funding often comes with an obligation to do certain work. What we really need is a greater reliance, a greater resilience around unrestricted income. So yes, please become a member of the CBA if you aren't already. Please gift membership to somebody else. Please join our activities, sign up to our newsletter, make sure you're actually receiving things we put out digitally, but also donate. We are really clear that when we move forward with a lot of our activities, we don't charge for them, but small donations make a real difference. And again, the CBA over the coming years is going to have to be better at asking for people to donate directly to us around the activities we do. I think that's going to be a big shift in how membership is perceived. People will buy smaller things more often. They'll dip in and out, and we need to be much more alive to that dynamic nature of engagement and activity. That is where we're at. It, for me, is a really exciting place to be. I think the organisation is well equipped to take on these issues and to be the voice of archaeology, particularly grassroots archaeology. And I'd welcome any questions that you've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. I can see that we have had 3 questions that have been loaded into the Q&A function. So the first one that came in is, how can the CBA membership support the wider sector in the political, environmental and economic challenges facing us all?
So the CBA has a strong advocacy role. We have traditionally always been an advocacy agent within the archaeology and heritage sector, and we play that role really importantly. And we do that through a number of ways. We have a very strong memorandum of understanding with the Chartered Institute for Archaeologists. We provide the secretariat functions to organisations such as University Archaeology UK, the CAF, which stands for the Archaeology Forum. So that's a UK-wide body that comes together to talk about issues in archaeology. We have a direct role in supporting the secretariat function for the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Archaeology. And it's through these levers that we actually can have quite a lot of influence in some of the heritage debates. I sit on the Historic Environment Forum as the CBA's representative. I'm also on the steering group of that organisation as well, which directly advocates to government. These are really important places where we need to keep our presence and we need to keep active. Of course, not one of them brings in any income. So that, again, when the CBA membership starts to think of what your money is putting forward, it's directly helping us address those political, environmental and economic challenges and where archaeology sits in that field. Obviously, archaeology is a great discipline and a great subject to talk about local places and the meaning of local places and the value of local places. And that's a point we really need to get across as well.
Thank you. Second question. This is a question from David. What steps are CBA taking to re-engage with groups and societies that are either no longer or haven't been members of CBA to try and encourage them to join?
Brilliant. Thank you, David. That is a really excellent question. So our Taking the Temperature survey, we actually ran it twice. We did it first for CBA organisational members. So out of the 250, we actually had 132 responses, which was amazing, well over 50%. We then actually did a call out to all those just through social media, the internet, and through our network of other agency partners. To organisations that weren't or aren't members or might have been lapsed members of the CBA. And we had over 120 responses to that. So again, and we actually started in that process talking to them about what they might want out of CBA membership, whether they would like to join, what would that actually look like. Our lottery application has a specific project strand about understanding the needs of archaeological groups and societies and what CBA membership might look like to best serve those. So again, we're really interested in actually how we have that conversation over the next 18 months to reimagine the CBA institutional membership so that we can be more relevant to more organisations, because that really strengthens our voice. And I do believe there is a role there for the CBA to champion those groups and societies, and particularly that area of local relevance.
Thank you. Third question, I think this is the final one. Good overview and food for thought for challenges going forward. But what would you say is your proudest achievement for the CBA over the last year?
Okay. My proudest thing is the staff. I think they achieve way beyond their capacity, way beyond. Yeah, the dedication of the CBA staff is phenomenal. They're creative, they're inspiring, they're challenging. Yeah. And I think if you really want to understand the heartbeat of the CBA, then you should come to our office in York and meet the staff, particularly on our staff days, because they're absolutely amazing. So for me, as the CBA director, it's definitely letting you know you've got a brilliant staff body here who really, really help you. And, we have so many aspirations about what we do. But I would just say, if I had to call anything out, I think the Youth Governance Board is brilliant. I think, I've met quite a few of them now. And I think, if we can harness that enthusiasm from that younger voice, we can really say something really quite interesting and operate in a different sphere, which is great to look forward to.
I promised you that was the last one, but we did have another one that just came in. Are you, like the National Trust, having any problems with people trying to undermine your work? And then there's an apology if that is too political a question.
It's not too political a question. I think it is really important. I think it's the CBA needs to be really focused on this issue, because issues like this can really undermine us and take a lot of, again, we're a very small staff body, and they can take us, a lot of our time up. For me, there's a nuance in the focus. We're very clear that we want to try and operate at a very local level. Archaeology for me is best done as a local conversation about local places with local people, which enable us in some senses to fly underneath some of those political questions. But could you not, we stand right next to the National Trust in some of the aspirations they've got about how to present heritage and archaeology and what it actually means and its relevance to all society. And just how, for me, archaeology is a really powerful tool, because so much of it is about deep time when none of the political context actually existed. So actually you can have different conversations about things. It's really important that we keep that focus and we keep that conversation live. I'm sure it will bring challenges for us, but rest assured, I think we're going to have to face them, just like the National Trust.
Thank you, Neil. I think I've just got one more comment that's come in. Can the regional groups be used to take a mentoring role with local societies, for including YAC groups? It would be good to see a stronger relationship.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good, important point. I think we need to think long and hard about how that relationship actually works, and how we make the most out of it. That imagining the organization as the network that actually has a series of umbrella roles, What I know from talking to many of the groups and societies that are out there, even the CBA groups, is there's vast amounts of skills that are already existing in these organizations. It's actually how do we network them most effectively so that actually the network itself starts creating the solutions and the answers to some of the issues that are actually going on out there.